Hello. This YouTube channel is about saving our freedom for ourselves and the future generations. If you really love your children, your grandchildren, and your freedom, please watch or listen to this video. Hello, my name is Jerry Dito, and I want to share with you what I believe, how God answered my prayer. I prayed with tears and asked God, why was there so much evil when we have so many churches? A few days later, I was cleaning out my bookcase and found a book that stood out. I don't know where I got it. It was a used book. The name of the book is You Are Engaged in the Battle for Your Mind, A Subtle Warfare by Tim LaHaye. He exposes secular humanism and the effect it has on our society. And I want to read a quote from a summary that he had written in his book, The Wisdom of Man. Humanism is one world, America second, an obsession to merge Western democracies, Eastern communism, and third world dictatorships into a one world socialist state where Plato's dream of three classes of people would be fulfilled. The elite ruling class, the omnipresent military, the masses where there is no difference between sexes, men and women do the same work, and children are the wards of the state. Naturally, the humanists will be the elite ruling class. Humanism's premise, man is basically good, his goals should be self-actualization, self-determination, and self-indulgence. Since there is no life after death, it is in man's best interest to find the good life here and now. Do your own thing, stress human rights, be lenient to criminals. Humanists advocate sexual activity and promiscuity for the young as well as the old. They advocate free use of pornography and drugs and endorse prostitution, homosexuality, and abortion on demand in the name of human rights. Their guiding principle is, do what is in your own self-interest, and they are very hostile to Christianity and morality. Humanists hold a religious theory that permits them to explain man's origin without God, thus leaving man unaccountable to God in spite of scientific evidence to the contrary. They insist that man is the highest form of primate. They will not permit creation to be given equal time in our so-called free public schools. Humanists foster the unscientific religious belief that there is not now and never has been either a supreme being or a personal God who is interested in the affairs of man. Well, we see what a summary of humanism is, and that's what we're getting today. And I'm going to read a little from American Humanist Association. Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that, without theism or other supernatural beliefs, affirms our ability to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to greater good, from the American Humanist Association, of personal fulfillment that is very, very important for humanists. All right, the American Humanist Association has stood as the voice of humanism in the United States for over 70 years. A quote from American Humanist Association, Minister Keith Pfeiffer, in his essay, The Faith of a Humanist. We strive to bring about a progressive society where being good without a God is an accepted and respectful way to live life. We are accomplishing this through our defense of civil liberties and secular governance, by our outreach to a growing number of people without traditional religious faith, and through a continued refinement and advancement of the humanist worldview. Finally, religious humanism is faith in action, and they put their faith in action. We'll see how they're doing it. I'm going to read another quote from Life in the Spirit Study Bible commentary by Zondervan. Colossians 2:8, deceptive philosophy, rather than on Christ. Paul warns us to be on guard against all philosophies, religions, and traditions that emphasize humans functioning independently from God and His written revelation. Today, one of the greatest philosophical threats to biblically based Christianity is secular humanism. This has become the underlying philosophy and accepted religion in secular educations, government, and society in general, and is the established viewpoint of most all the news and entertainment media throughout the world. What does the philosophy of secular humanism teach? It teaches that humanity, the universe, and all that exists consists only of matter and energy shaped into their present form by an impersonal chance. It teaches that humans have not been created by a personal God, but are the product of a chance process of volition. It rejects belief in a personal, infinite God and denies the Bible is God's inspired revelation to the human race. It asserts that knowledge does not exist apart from human discovery and that human reason determines the appropriate ethics of society, and thus making human beings the ultimate authority concerning moral choices. It seeks to modify or improve human behavior through education, redistribution of wealth, modern psychology, or human wisdom. It teaches that moral standards are not absolute but relative, determined by what makes people happy, brings them pleasure, or seeks good for society according to the goals set by its leaders. Thus, biblical values and morality are rejected. It considers human self-fulfillment, satisfaction, and pleasure to be the highest good in life. It maintains that people should learn to cope with death and their difficulties in life without belief in or dependence on God. The philosophy of humanism began with Satan and is an expression of Satan's lie that humans can be like God. Scripture identifies humanists as those who have exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worship and serve created things rather than the Creator. All Christian leaders, pastors, and parents must do their utmost to protect their sons and daughters from humanistic indoctrination by exposing its error, instilling in them a godly contempt for its destructive influence, and instructing them clearly in the truth of God's revelation. Circumcision done by Christ. In the Old Testament, circumcision was a sign of the individual Israelite stood in a covenant relationship with God. It symbolizes a cutting away or separation from sin and all that was unholy in the world. The believer under the New Testament covenant has undergone a spiritual circumcision, namely the putting off of the sinful nature. Such circumcision is a spiritual act whereby Christ cuts away our old unregenerated nature of rebellion against God and imparts to us the spiritual or resurrection life of Christ. It is a circumcision of the heart. We see that secular humanism has become the underlying philosophy and accepted religion in secular educations, government, and society in general, and an established viewpoint of most of the news and entertainment media throughout the world. They control most of the organizations. According to Tim LaHaye, they control the National Education Association, and we send our children to public schools that the humanists control to be indoctrinated, and we do nothing about it. They control the United Nations, UN. They control the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. They control the United Children's Fund, UNCF, World Health Organization, American Civil Liberties Union, Planned Parenthood Federation of America. We allow them in our schools. Of course, the schools are humanistic controlled. And the LGBT, lesbian, gay, and bisexual, and transgender, we allow them to educate our children and indoctrinate them. And most television, media, broadcasting, and publishing. because the humanist has bought up and took control of where Satan has power in high places, spiritual wickedness. I'm going to read a quote from Dr. Daniel Fountain from the book God, Medicine, and Miracles. Dr. Fountain was a medical missionary in Africa, and he exposes how the humanists are doing the things they do. Their minds have been corrupted. The Apostle Paul tells us that our real struggles are not against human beings, but are against the wicked spiritual forces in the heavenly world, the rulers, authorities, and cosmic powers of this dark age. Ephesians 6:12. Because of our modern rationalistic culture, we understand this passage poorly. What are these powers? Where is the heavenly world? How do these powers act on us? The heavenly world is the unseen spiritual realm that surrounds us, in which we live our daily lives. These rulers, authorities, and cosmic powers are spiritual forces acting in human affairs through human structures, organizations, institutions, governments, media, to deceive, corrupt, and manipulate them. The spirit of hatred operating through the Nazi government produced the Holocaust. The spirit of conflict working in many ethnic groups motivates the genocidal conflicts all over the world. The spirit of immorality has engineered the sexual revolution and opened the door to physical and psychological illnesses that are destroying the lives and health of millions of people. We see how Satan is destroying the lives of people. He is using the American humanists to do this. And humanism comes in different flavors. You have the socialists, the communists, Marxism, cultural Marxism, social Marxism. All are by the devil. In 2 Corinthians, we read, "But I fear, lest somehow, as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, so your minds may be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ." We see that the serpent can corrupt minds. We may not like to believe it, we like to ignore it, but it's a reality. In 2 Corinthians 4:3-4, "But even if our gospel is veiled to those who are perishing, whose minds the God of this age has blinded, who do not believe, lest the light of the gospel of the glorious glory of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine on them." See, it's important that we understand the power of Satan. In 2 Corinthians 11:13-15, "For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transformed himself to an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their works." We see that Satan has ministers, and we see Satan can transform himself to an angel of light. When we think of an angel, we think of righteousness without wrong. And where there's no light, there's no vision. So we're going to see this righteousness maybe like Eve saw the fruit in the garden. It's going to look good, sound good, but it's going to lead to destruction. So what do we need to do about it? In Acts 18, Jesus told Paul, "To whom I now send you, to open their eyes in order to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith in me." That's what we need to do, but we don't do it. In 2 Corinthians 10:3, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. Well, we look at the I had to look up the definition, make sure I knew what a stronghold was. And dictionary.com says a place that serves as the center of a group, as of militants or a person holding a controversial viewpoint. The campus was a stronghold of liberalism, a place where a particular cause or belief is strongly defended or upheld, a Republican stronghold. Organizations, the strongholds, works of the devil. The humanist organizations are the strongholds. And we see the American Humanist Association is a very powerful stronghold, and we do nothing to pull that organization down. And we see that humanism exalts itself against the knowledge of God. They say there's no God, and it wants to remove God. And when you remove God, you have life or society run by the devil, and the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy. And if you watch the news, you'll see that happening in our cities today. They're killing, stealing, and destroying, and the political leaders, the mayors and the police, is protecting them to do it. That's what we have. That's the results of spiritual wickedness. So we see this going on in our society. Now, are there any other evil going on in our society? Well, let's look. We see in Romans 1 through 28:32 the results of not pulling down these strongholds. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who, knowing the righteousness judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, and not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. Well, by doing nothing, we must be approving them. And you see the works of the devil. Right here, we see that the devil has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And we see other evil. Are there any other evil going on in our society? Well, we see this is what happens when we don't try to open our eyes in order to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins. What else do we get? We get drug and substance abuse. That's the next video. I'm going to stop this video here. And if you really care about the freedom of ourselves and the future generation, if you love the children, your grandchildren, we will do something about drug and substance abuse. That's another lie that Satan has put in our minds that we cannot stop it. And I'm going to show you how we can stop the drug abuse, or at least slow it down a lot. So please watch this second video on drug and substance abuse.